Okay, thank you very much. And God, it's so nice to see all you folks that opted to come out on a Monday night when you might have had something else you could have been doing. But we're glad you chose to spend your evening with us. So we hope you're ready for a good time, because we're certainly going to have a good time up here. And what I'm going to do in between each tune, I'm going to give you a little information about the tunes, because I think it's really cool. When I'm sitting in the audience, I'm going like, what was that tune? And tell me something about that tune. So I would like to do that for you guys. So that first tune, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, was originally intended for a Broadway musical called Showboat, well-known Broadway show in 1932. But it didn't really work in that show, and so the composer, Jerome Kern, reworked it for another show called Roberta, which opened in 1933. Now, interestingly enough, Roberta had been open for several months and had been pretty much a flop until they added this one tune. And that was Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. And then the show became a hit, which is, kind of hard to believe one tune can do that, but it did. And of course, now it's one of the best known standard jazz tunes out there. Now we're going to continue with a great tune by the wonderful Dizzy Gillespie, one of the great trumpet players of all time, and of course known for his work in the bebop idiom, and also had his own big band, and he is credited with contributing Afro-Cuban rhythms into the bebop style big band. So this tune, A Night in Tunisia, was written in 1942 when Dizzy was playing in the Billy Eckstine big band along with his compatriot Charlie Parker. And it was originally called Interlude, and it had lyrics, and it was sung by none other than Sarah Vaughan, who was also a member of that same band. And then later, Dizzy and Charlie Parker and Sarah Vaughan recorded the tune under its new name, Tunisia, in 1944. Now, the piano player Earl Hines claimed that he came up with the title, but Dizzy always disputed that and has said that the title should have been Night in Tunisia, not A Night in Tunisia, but everybody always calls it A Night in Tunisia. And the story goes, Art Blakey, the great drummer who Dizzy had worked with on occasion, claimed that Dizzy wrote this tune on the back of a garbage can lid that he used as a desk. It's a great story. I don't know if that's true. Dizzy claimed that he had worked on the piece during breaks when they were recording a little video called, or a video for Maxine Sullivan, a vocalist, that was called a soundie. In those days, that was what today we would call a music video. So this is a really wonderful arrangement of Night in Tunisia by a great trumpet player, Michael Philip Mossman, who actually played with Horace Silver. And so we hope you enjoy A Night in Tunisia. Not bad, huh? Yeah. Yeah, it's a great arrangement. It's a lot of fun to play. Okay, our next tune, How High the Moon, was originally written in 1940 for a Broadway show called Two for the Show. And the harmonic pattern is kind of interesting. It's a series of what we call 2-5-1s, which is within the scale, second chord of the scale, leading to the fifth chord of the scale, leading to the what we call the tonic, the number one chord of the scale. And when you start in different places and go 2-5-1, you can change keys in a nanosecond. And this tune does that. And it's became a favorite of all the early bebop musicians. As a matter of fact, Charlie Parker wrote what we call a contrafact on this tune. That is where you would keep the original chord progression, take off the original melody, and write a new melody. And of course, they did that in those days to avoid copyright infringement, because they wanted to play those chord progressions, but they didn't want to have to pay royalties to the composer. So they basically rewrote the tune. You can copyright a melody, but you can't, believe it or not, you can't copyright a chord progression, which is very interesting. And so Benny Goodman, the great clarinet player and band leader in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, had a hit on the song. And Benny's guitar player, Charlie Christian, was involved with the early bebop guys, and it's thought that he probably took the tune and introduced it to them, and that's why it became popular with the bebop guys. So this is a wonderful arrangement of How High the Moon by Mark Taylor, who worked for the United States Army for many years, the Army Blues Band, as an arranger. And so here is How High the Moon. Okay, yeah, sorry, it's like a three-ring circus back here sometimes. Switching horns and stuff. Okay, now our next... What? It's not stuff? Okay. Bass player says it's not stuff, so it's not stuff. So our next tune, written by the absolute brilliant Duke Ellington, who was known to have written well over 2,000 tunes, and this is one of two of his tunes we're going to play for you tonight. This was originally written in 1930 for a radio broadcast and the piece was originally titled Dreamy Blues. And a wonderful clarinet player who played with Ellington's band, Barney Bigard, claimed that he had learned the melody from his teacher, who was a New Orleans clarinet player named Lorenzo Tio. And Bigard even sued to get a share of the royalties, so his name is actually listed as one of the composers on the piece. Eventually, lyrics were added, and it's thought that they were written by Irving Mills, who was also associated with Ellington's band. He was Ellington's manager at the time. And then Mitchell Parrish, another well-known composer, also claimed to have written the lyrics. So that back in those days, there was a lot of stuff. They didn't keep great records, so there's all these kind of wild stories about who did what, when, and where. In 1930, the original recording that Ellington did featured a 7-piece band, so not his full big band, and it had trumpet, trombone, clarinet, piano, banjo, bass, and drums. And if any of you out there are in any of our jazz history classes, and I hope there are some of you out there, this is a great example of one of Ellington's main arranging techniques where he kind of played around with the registration of the different instruments. Normally the trumpet would be on top, or actually the clarinet would be on top, the trumpet would be in the middle, trombone would be on the bottom. But what Ellington did was he flipped that. He put the trombone in the upper register on top, trumpet still in the middle, and trombone and trumpet were both muted, and then he put the clarinet on the bottom in the low register. And so he did this in the studio, and it became known as the mic tone effect. And what was cool about it is because of the way he arranged it and the use of the mutes, it actually, the overtones by the instruments made it sound like there was a fourth horn being played when there were actually only 3. So, this is a really wonderful arrangement. It's very different than the original. This is actually a samba, a Latin tune, a Brazilian samba, which is a wonderful groove, as you will hear, and again, arranged by Mark Taylor. Here is Mood Indigo. And you'll notice that Mark and I are playing flugelhorns. That's the big fat one that has a mellower sound. All right. Oh, thank you very much. That time you heard Bob Kemp on alto saxophone. How about a hand for Bob? Yes. You heard Mark Tucker on piano over there. And some old guy back here playing flugelhorn. Thank you. That was me. Yeah, that was me. Okay, our next tune goes back to the bebop idiom. And again, Charlie Parker, who was largely responsible for helping to develop the bebop genre, along with Dizzy Gillespie and a bunch of other great musicians like Thelonious Monk. And Charlie Parker had a thing for chicken. He loved chicken, especially fried chicken. And rumor has it that he had worked at a chicken restaurant at one point in his life. And so his nickname was Yardbird. And there's actually a great story about some tour that he was on one time, and he made the bus driver stop so he could chase down a chicken to cook it for dinner. I'm not kidding. That was the story. So Yardbird was his nickname, and of course, later on it became shortened to just Bird. And so he wrote this tune, and it's one of the first tunes from the bebop era that was not a contrafat. So he actually wrote an original chord progression, and it's kind of a cool tune to play on. And of course, the title Yardbird Suite. Yardbird, of course, is Parker. And apparently at the time, a very famous classical work by Igor Stravinsky called the Firebird Suite. You get it? Bird, Firebird. So he put the word suite in the title. So this is Yardbird Suite by Charlie Parker, once again arranged by the wonderful Mark Taylor. Okay. So our next tune, one I think most of you have probably heard of, if not have heard many times. You guys have heard of the Beatles, right? Oh, come on. I know more than 3 people have heard of the Beatles. Thank you. There you go. All right. So Blackbird was one of Paul McCartney's most loved tunes, and he claims that it was inspired by 2 different concepts, really, and he wrote it while he was in Scotland, and he said that he had been, of course, the Beatles got into transcendental meditation back in the late 60s, early 70s, and they went to Rishikesh, India, and McCartney said he heard a blackbird and heard the song of the blackbird, and that had inspired him. But then later he also said that the tune was inspired by the civil rights movement of the 1960s, and in particular what had happened to the Little Rock Nine. That was a group of 9 black students who had been denied access to the high school there in Hope, Arkansas by Governor Arvil Falbus. And of course they had to call out the National Guard to actually allow them into the school. And so that profoundly affected McCartney, apparently, and so that was part of what this tune is about. And so he said that the blackbird in this case was to represent a young African-American woman. This is another great arrangement by Mark Taylor, and it's going to feature me. Oh, I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired. No, this actually takes a little bit of effort back here, believe it or not. Our next tune, we're going to slow it down. This is a wonderful ballad, again by Duke Ellington. And this was written in 1941 for a musical revue called Jump for Joy that featured the vocalist Ivy Anderson. And the lyrics were written by Paul Webster. That show only lasted a few months, but this piece became a big hit for Ellington, and of course was recorded many times by Duke. And then a lot of other artists had well-known hits on this piece, most notably Ella Fitzgerald and the big band leaders Stan Kenton and Jimmy Dorsey. The interesting thing is, it's not an easy vocal piece. The opening three numbers is a half step, and then it's a leap of an octave plus a step. So it's not an easy skip. It's a leap, really, not a skip. So, and I have to do it several times in here, so wish me luck. All right, so this is another wonderful arrangement, this time by John Wilson. I Got It Bad, and That Ain't Good. Okay, we've come to the part you've all been waiting for, the end. I'm kidding, of course. Before we do our last tune, I want to introduce the guys in the band. Most of the guys up here are not full-fledged music majors, as you can see, and it's not required that you major in music to be in the band, of course, but most of the time we have, you know, a handful of music majors, but as you can see, the average age up here is, what, around Methuselah, something like that. So all of these guys that work day jobs doing something else outside of music, most of them, have admitted to the college and have become non-traditional students so they can play in this band, because we have a new requirement that says anybody who plays in our ensembles has to be a registered student. And so that's how lucky we are that these guys want to do it that much that they went through the trouble to become students so they could play in this band. I'm going to start over there in piano. I think, in my opinion, one of the top jazz piano players in Atlanta, and he makes his living in the daytime as a hardware engineer, Mark Tucker on the piano over there. Yeah. And we have a recently graduated Perimeter College student on drums. He played with us a few years ago and came back after he graduated and said, "Can I play in the band again?" I said, "Absolutely." And we're very happy to have him with us again. And he works in IT, right, doing computer-related stuff. Jared Archibald on the drums. Yeah. And we have two bass players. Standing here with us right now is actually a real bona fide Perimeter College music major. He's studying jazz bass, and we're very happy to have Tyler Richardson right here on bass. And as you can see, he's playing what we call the electric bass guitar, and he wants to learn the big boy there, what we call the acoustic bass or stand-up bass. And that's coming down the road, I think. Steve Blair, come stick your head out. Our other bass player, Stephen Blair, who makes a living as an accountant and is one of the top bass players in town, plays in a lot of different bands all over Atlanta for many years, very talented, and we're happy to have Steve with us also. All right, now on saxophone, our regular tenor player, Lester Pleasant, got under the weather at the last minute, and we decided it was going to be better for him to give him a little time off, and that meant we had to bring someone in. And so we brought in my good buddy here, who is a semi-retired pilot who has taught flight on many occasions and now is making a living mostly as a musician, and I'm so very lucky to have him as a friend and a colleague, Steve Weikle, here on tenor sax. And another longtime member of this band, actually Bob has been in the band since the very beginning, my first year. This is ending my 25th year directing this band, believe it or not. Yeah, thank you. I started in 1998 directing this group, and it's been quite a ride and a lot of fun, and Bob Kemp has been with us the whole time. On alto sax, Bob Kemp. And our other alto sax player, a retired postal worker who also served in the armed forces. Thank you for that, Rock. And Roxell is actually working on an associate's degree in music, and he wanted to play in the band, and I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And there he is, Roxell Carter on alto sax. Yeah. And another wonderful musician who's joined us recently, a retired police officer who's now working still in law enforcement. I think he said paralegal type work. Is that right? He works for a personal injury law firm, so be careful. Please don't stub your toe on the way out. And we're very happy to have him. He plays tenor sax, but he last semester said, hey, I'll try the baritone sax. Jeff Drew over there on Barry sax. Yeah. Okay, and coming up to this end with the trombone sections, we have another IT guy who's from Ackworth, Georgia, and is a wonderful player and a really good guy. We're very happy to have Nathaniel Addix on trombone. And this guy here, I have known for almost 50 years. Well, actually, it's over 50 years, I think, at this point. He and I went to competing high schools and played in area bands together, and we actually had our own big band at one time. Lasted about 5 minutes, but we tried. Somewhere out there is this great picture of the band, and you would never know. We look so different. Yeah, right. But Bob was in the original version of this band in 1975 when this community jazz ensemble, a part of DeKalb College, first started. And he's been a dear friend for all those many years, and I'm so glad he's been in the band and been in and out and come back and has been with us. Bob Devine on trombone, our lead trombone. And then this guy, who has also been in the band on various occasions, but he was also in the very first version of this band back in the 1970s, 1975. And he is 1 day older than me. 2? I'm the 7th. You're the 6th. That's 1 day, Mark. No. No, I'm older than I look. Mark is actually a physician, still working, and we're very happy that he comes on Monday nights and plays with us. Mark Merlin here on trumpet. And my name is Greg McLean. I'm an associate professor of music. I've been here for many years, started in 1996. And it's a great place to work, and I love it. And I want to thank, before I forget, I always forget to do this, I want to thank our sound technician up there in the booth, Aaron Gottlieb. And I would also like to thank our house manager tonight, Norman Richards, who is so wonderful. And these guys, we couldn't do it without them. And once again, thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate the support. And I'm not sure if it got in the program, but we do have a jazz fund through the foundation of the college. And we do accept tax deductible donations to that fund, so you can buy music and things like that. So if you're so moved, you can go to Georgia State University's website and find the foundation, and I'm sure you can figure out how to do that. So we're going to end up tonight with a good old 12-bar blues. This was written by Milt Jackson, who was a great vibraphone player in the Modern Jazz Quartet, and his nickname was Bags because he was a little bit of a partier and was out drinking and smoking and whatever in the evenings and had bags under his eyes all the time. So they called him Bags. And this is his tune called Bags Groove. So if you're still here when we get done, you please come and say hello. These guys don't bite. And I'm pretty sure most of them have had their shots. That's all we got. Thank you again. Come say hello if you would like to.